everyone. Welcome to Moto Tribe. I'm Lara Kraft, and we are doing a series on why I ride. And today we have with us Lexxie, GearHeadGirl. She has an amazing story. When I read it, I said, oh my gosh, we have to have her on. I have to hear this directly from her. So with that, I do want to turn it over to Lexxie, and so you can share your story with our audience.
Yeah, so my story really began probably back in 2011-ish. I had gotten what's called a working holiday visa to go to New Zealand. So I was like, I'd never been there before. I didn't really know what I was in for. I'd been to Central America and that didn't really work out for me, but I was like, oh, New Zealand, that feels right. Let's go. So I went to New Zealand, had an amazing year, and thought I was going to be able to stay, and was going through immigration, the whole process like that. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to fly back to the US. I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm going to live in New Zealand forever. But when I got back to the US, they let me know that the company that was going to be sponsoring me for my visa wasn't actually eligible. So I was so angry. I've been based in Atlanta pretty much my whole life, is where I grew up. And I got in my car. I had turtles at the time. I threw my turtles in the back seat in a big Tupperware bin, and I just drove. And I drove and I drove and I drove all the way to California because I was like, this is the closest that I can get to New Zealand. I was out there and trying to figure out how to get back. And then my mom was like, can you come home? You know, we need to have a family reunion. And I went back, and we were going to go to the aquarium, the Georgia Aquarium downtown. And I was like, oh, great. I'm a microbiologist, did a lot of marine biology. So I was like, that's awesome. There's whale sharks, there's manta rays. Let's go. So the morning that we were supposed to go, my mom was yellow, like jaundiced yellow. And we're like, that's not good. And so she's like, no, you keep going. You guys go to the aquarium. She's like, take your grandparents down. I'm going to go to the hospital. We went to the aquarium, and I was standing there. And downtown, I don't know if you guys have ever been, but they have Ocean Voyager. And it's this big glass window. It's massive. And it's like looking into an ocean. You can see the whip sharks, the manta rays, the sea turtle. And it's really impressive. And they do this dive show, and they have scuba divers with the Guardian face masks, so you can talk. And they're talking, doing an interview with the divers who are in the water. And I was just absolutely in awe of this. I was like, that's amazing. I was like, people get paid to do that. I was like, I need to get paid to do that. I don't know, how at all I'm going to do that, and when, or if it's even possible. I was like, I'm going to make this happen. Like, that's going to be my job. And that was like my thought at that time. So we keep going around the aquarium, and then it's time to leave, and my mom's out of the hospital. But anyway, so we go back, and they're like, yeah, she has pancreatic cancer. It's terminal. We can do chemo. And so we're all just like, oh my gosh. So instead of going back to California, I moved in with one of my high school friends, and I got a job in this factory. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking about, I want to be a diver. Like, I really want to be a diver. So I went on the aquarium's website, and I started like looking for like career vacancies or things like that. And I found this internship. Turns out I ended up getting the dive internship, which was great. And I do my diving, go see my mom when I could. And she made it through one thing of chemo, and then they're like, oh, it's better, it's gone. We're like, awesome, yay, you're better. Then I got offered an actual paid position as the diver at the aquarium. So, and I ended up actually being that person in Ocean Voyager with the Guardian mask. And that was, one huge dream completed. And all this time, we're still going to the hospital with my mom and doing all this. And then, so the cancer ends up coming back, and we're like, oh no. My sister she was pregnant with her third child, and she ended up losing the baby as a complication of the pregnancy. But the other thing is it ended up destroying her liver, so she had to have a liver life flighted in. We were going to one hospital for my mom's chemo, and then we'd be going to the other hospital to try to take care of my sister. And they didn't know she was going to survive at that point. I always kept thinking though, like, New Zealand, I still got to get back to New Zealand. So I would be accomplishing goals, but at the end of the day, I was still New Zealand, New Zealand. I knew that I was where I needed to be at the time for my family, but I knew I had to get back to New Zealand. Throughout all this, I started what kind of helped me was with the third shift. Back when I did the third shift, I'd go riding up to Blood during the days. Anytime I had spare time, I'd be riding my CBR. I had ninjas and CBRs, or wait, a CBR and a bunch of ninjas. But riding, I was riding throughout all this, and I was also getting into SECA, autocross, and racing, and all this stuff. And that was my outlet for all the stress at this time. And ultimately, my mom ended up, she lost her battle to cancer, and it was really tough. I was working all through that, and I got to be there when she went, and then I just went straight to work. And they're like, "Oh, you can take leave, right?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't know. I just wanted to keep working." So I kept working through that, and diving down. There's the dolphin pool. You have to clean it with these big hydraulic, like, underwater scrubbers and stuff. So that was the most peace I found, was right after she died, and I went to work, and I just went all the way down to the bottom of the deepest pool that we had, and it was just diving is really soothing for me, and that helped a lot. And I think that has stayed with me and kind of kept with that's why it means so much to me, is the association of the aquarium and my mother. After my mom passed, my sister, we were actually I was getting on a plane to fly out to LA to do a vintage cross tour adventure on vintage bikes. We were all ready to go, and I get a call. I'm in line to get on the plane, and my dad's like, your sister has, it was basically, we had to make a call on a DNR order. So I had to sit there and make that call right before getting on a plane and flying out to California for what was we still did the whole tour and the ride and the race, and it was really epic, but it was very, very bittersweet. So you talk about a high and a low. Like, it was like a high and a low within 24 hours, and you still have that overlap hanging there. Like, wow. Trying to process that and trying to keep a happy face through all that was tough.
Such a powerful story that you've said. I'd love to go back to your beginning on, how long have you been riding?
I've been riding probably 8 or 9 years now. Yeah.
How did you get into riding?
So I got into riding because of autocross, actually, funnily enough. So SECA does this autocross thing, and you can do it in your street car, and it's a closed course, and it's safe. There's cones, and you go as fast as you can on this little closed course, and it's probably the safest form of motorsport, and it's really, really good if you want to get into racing. So I got into autocross. I did like one event, and I was like hooked. So I ended up doing the whole like next season and did really well. And I was like, okay, well, I've done this. Like now, I don't want to do the same class. Like, what can I do? Like, it's like, oh, you can modify your car, and then you can compete in this class. And I was like, sweet, I'm gonna go and try to win this next class. And to do that, I had to modify my car. And to modify my car, I needed something else to drive while I was modifying it. I didn't have the space for another car at the time, so I was like, oh, I'll get a motorcycle. Yeah, I got a motorcycle, and then I realized, holy crap, why didn't I get this like years ago? And then I realized, oh, you can race motorcycles too. So that's kind of what started it. Was I needed to modify my car to be able to go into the next class up for autocross, and that's how I got into riding.
It's not the typical, it's not the usual, but it is a neat story and how you get into writing, and then I'm really curious about especially females that ride because it's not something that you necessarily always think about that women riding and getting into it and really into it. And so I'm curious if you think there's some sort of characteristic maybe within you, kind of guided you to riding. Have you always been adventurous and enjoying sports, and it seems like you have a really resilient spirit. You go through a lot. Maybe you like the challenge of
I,
learning something really difficult.
I absolutely love a good challenge. I'd always really liked horses and ridden horses and stuff growing up, and it's like if I couldn't get a horse, I can get a motorcycle. Would be my steel horse. And I have this. I love my vehicles probably more than you should, but I just have like a connection to like my vehicles, and I absolutely love them. And from the cars, it kind of passed on to the two wheels. Except the two wheels, you can like you can feel so much more. Like you can become like one with the bike, and you can feel the road, and it's just that freedom and and the challenge of it. Like it's its own beast, and you need to treat it with respect and learn it. And it's yeah, that's kind of what drew me to it. And it was definitely a challenge. I did that 2-day MSF course and went and got my full license. I bought a little Ninja 250, and I decided, like the MSF course, they don't have you doing highway speeds. I didn't know about counter steering, and I decided I was going to ride 2 states over on the bike I just bought. And I about killed myself on the first major turn on the highway. So I rode for 10 hours, not really knowing how to ride. And granted, it was mostly straight, but every turn was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Because like someone had told me, oh, you push like with the opposite way you want to turn. I was like, what are you talking about? You're lying. So it's like that in and of itself was like a huge like trying to figure out just the physics of it was pretty interesting those first few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I can. I know from firsthand experience. I didn't. It took me years to learn how to ride. So
Oh, learning,
we're
yeah,
in the same boat. But what I think is interesting is you've gone through a lot of hard and tough things in your life, and it seems like the things that kind of gave you comfort were diving in the tank at the aquarium and riding in the
yeah,
mountain. Was it just in the sense of like giving you a sense of flow and peace
yeah, yeah.
and everything?
Especially, yeah, like with the bikes, I find peace in the motion of it. Like when you get lost in the corners and you're just going and and you just zone in. It's just really calming for whatever reason. I also with the diving, my favorite thing to do is to be like basically stuck in a little underwater cave. For some reason, I find that super peaceful. Like most people, yeah, most people don't want to end up in the situations that I find comfortable, but it's oddly soothing for me, so that's why I pursue it. And it's a really good contrast to just the noise and the stress of everyday life. Is either being just, in all your leathers and all your safety gear, just going through those corners or just sinking down and being, if you can get neutral buoyancy with the diving, I've never been to space, but I imagine that's what it's like. You're just floating there, and it's so calming.
Yeah, I can see that. So was it calming to pick up all your stuff and fly to New Zealand and move? And I know in your story, what were you wearing when you were on the plane?
I was wearing all of my racing leathers. Um, so I initially went to UPS and was gonna have my stuff like shipped. And yeah, they wanted like $800 for it. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, nah. So I was like, okay, I'll just bring the bare essentials. So I had um, a backpack full of all my car racing gear. And then I ended up wearing my motorcycle stuff. I had my helmet in a bag as my carry-on. And I had my motorcycle helmet with my carry-on. The other helmet was shoved in my car racing helmet was shoved in my bag. And I had, backpack on the front and the bag on the back and front bags and just race gear. Once I landed, so it was super super stressful packing everything up, trying to organize and sort everything before you leave the country for an indefinite amount of time. Um, so that was super super stressful. But as soon as I landed, like as soon as I could see the country and I landed, I was like, oh my god! And I was standing there just in my motorcycle leathers with my helmet, picking up my bags, just like, I'm back, I did it. And that was one of the highlights of my life, was probably stepping off that plane that second time. From there, I flew into Auckland, and someone's like, oh, you should go race with the super bikes. I was like, what? And I found out there's a super bikes so Auckland's the North Island, super bikes are South Island. So I hitchhiked to the airport, bought a very expensive plane ticket, flew down, and then hitchhiked to the racetrack and ended up with all the superbike guys. And then I traveled around with them for a while. The adventure just had started from that point. And I came over, I did there's the Burt Monroe Festival. So the Burt Monroe Indian, the guy who goes to the salt flats, like I was like, I'm going to do the reverse and I'm going to go to the Burt Monroe thing and go race on Already Beach. I bought a little Aprilia and I stuck it in the back of a Honda Civic. And so with the bike's hanging out the back of this little Civic hatchback, and I drove all the way down to the bottom of the South Island, and for this Burt Monroe festival, I found that Burt Monroe's actual Indian in a hardware store, like his actual bike that he set the land speed record in, is sitting in a hardware store at the bottom of the South Island. There's a museum for him down there. Like it was just epic, just finding all this stuff. And then I got to the thing, and I've got my race license from the U.S. I'm standing there once again in all my leathers at tech, and I've got the bike all taped up, everything's ready to go. I'm just waiting for them to say final, yes, you can. And then they go, no, our insurance policies just won't allow it. You gotta be joking. I was like, Burt Monroe goes to the US. Everyone says he can't run. He finds a way. Like, I'm doing this. Like, and they're like, nope, you can't do it. And I was so mad. The day earlier, I went to a Honda test day. So I'm riding around a little Aprilia, like 125, with knobby tires, with the Honda super bikes, like they're on like 1000 cc's. We're all on the same track, and they're being really nice for the track day. They're letting me go in front just so I can be in traffic because I love traffic. And they're all zoom zoom zoom. And I'm just on my little bike going as fast as I can on this tiny thing with all these super bikes. But yeah, during there I met Dave Moss. He's like Dave Moss Tuning. He's like this tuner expert. Like if you need to set up your suspension, like go check him out because he's amazing. But I met him there, and I was telling him, it's like, yeah, they wouldn't let me race. And then I was like, it's a beach. You can't close a beach. So I looked up when low tide was, which was 11 p.m. that night, and I sent David a text. I'm like, I'm gonna go here right now, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go do this by myself in the dark. Who cares? I'm going to go run the beach race in the dark. And I get to the beach and then I see lights, and then it turned out to be Dave. Like he'd gotten my text and he'd come to like, I don't know, probably make sure I didn't completely crash out on the beach. But so we ended up doing our own little Berkman Road beach race on the already beach. So I did do it. It's not, it wasn't within the confines of the sanctioning body, but I did it, and it was dark. I about took myself out on a big thing of seaweed, but yeah, that was another highlight.
So that's pretty cool. So then, all right, so you've made it to New Zealand, you've raced a little bit on the beach, and so where do you? How long have you been in New Zealand?
That's a good question. So a few years now. 2019.
Okay. So are you still riding motorcycles out there now?
Of course, yeah. So I say I don't like 250s, and I don't. I think they're low powered and all this stuff like that. But yeah, when I was in Napier, and it's funny because like I was quite literally homeless, but working a full time job, and of course I had to have my motorcycle. So I signed up for this track day, but I didn't have a motorcycle. But I was like, well, I know if I sign up for the track day, I have to get a bike because I paid for this track day, so I'm gonna get a bike. And I ended up looking on in New Zealand. They have this thing called Trade Me. It's kind of like Craigslist, but a little bit safer. And I found this little Ninja 250 on, and it was a bit. It's very rough. It was a bit rough, but anyway, the guy ended up met me at the aquarium, and I was just like, holy crap, man, this little bike, like the handlebar was bit like it been. He was like, oh yeah, it was used as a farm bike. I'm like, how do you use a Ninja with street tires as a farm bike? But it had been just like crashed over, like the handlebar was bent. I think every bearing, like every piece on it had at least one crack. But yeah, I still ride that. I rode it this morning. And I rode it all the way through the night to Auckland, and it was kind of nuts because it was like foggy and freezing, and I just bought this bike. I had no idea if it was going to make it or not. I sent the organizers the thing saying, please message my boss if I don't show up, like the next, like if I don't make it to the track day, send help basically. But it made it. I met some awesome people at the track, and we were like adjusting the clutch and trying to bang out the handlebar and all that stuff. But yeah, I still have it, and I still ride it all the time. And I absolutely love riding. There's some amazing roads here, like amazing.
Yeah, I bet. I've heard there are some amazing roads there.
Yeah.
So, here's the question. Why do you ride? How did like what about riding?
The the people that I met riding, whether like it's just amazing. Like the community of people, and then just something about it is peaceful to me. I don't know what it is, but I love riding. I love stupid, crazy long endurance trips where you're like, don't know, like your hands won't work because you're so cold, but you have to keep going. I love stuff like that. Like the iron butt rides. I did it's the IBA, Iron Butt Association. They do these rides, and if you document it, they'll send you like certificates and stuff documenting your ride and all stuff like that. And I love stuff like that, and it's just meeting the people, getting out there, and it's a challenge, and you have to like, especially if you like switch different bikes and go on different roads, and just the challenge of riding itself, and then just getting in the zone. Like that's why I ride, really. Like it's just an amazing peaceful release, and at the same time you're able to constantly learn and sharpen your skills. You can show up anywhere, like you can pull up on a bike, see another bike and like, oh, I'm going to check out that bike, and then you end up starting a conversation with someone, and you might end up like lifelong friends like that. Like I love that aspect of it, like everything about it. And then getting to work on your bike, and bikes are a lot easier to work on than cars. And you can just sit there and like something like if you've ever taken apart an engine, like the engine internals are just like beautiful. Like it's just like art. And being able to go through a whole bike and take it apart and put it together and know like every little bit about it, it's just, you get back what you put in with them, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say it's the community because, like,
Yeah.
I think that when you know someone else rides, it's like instantaneous bond.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's the strangest thing, but I think it is such a great community, and then I do feel more connected to my bike when I work on it. So I can see that kind of bond, and it's something that is different than a lot of other bonds.
Mm.
So it is really neat. Well, I know I've had an amazing time listening to you and chatting. So where can people find you?
So you can visit me online. My website's www.ghd69.com. You can also follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at GearHeadGirl69.
Awesome. And I'll also add all those links down in the bottom in the video description. But with that, thank you so much, Lexi. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed our time together.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.